Welcome back, everybody. Rainy day, we're in the shop again. So yeah, we're still plugging away on undercarriage. Over here, we've got track frames. Got them set up on some sawhorses, and yeah, we got right side here put up on the side, left side sitting down like it should be. And I've put, well, a few hours into chasing all the threaded holes, everything. And both of these are looking really good. Everything for the bottom rollers, everything for the caps. And no cracks, no breaks. The areas up front here where those idler guides ride are looking really good. Sometimes these will get very thin where those idlers have just been rubbing back and forth on there. These are looking just about as good as any I've ever been into. So happy with the track frames up to a point. So you remember the track roller wear was heavily biased to the outside on the right, heavily biased to the inside on the left. I was really happy with everything until I got to the bushings that are in these tubes. This is what goes on the pivot shaft. Of course, pivot shaft is down here. I've checked it over and it's in really good shape. I get about 10 thousandths wear where those bushings ride on each end of the shaft, but honestly, that's probably the nicest looking shaft I've ever been in. You're not going to find one any better. So we're just going with this shaft as it is. No reconditioning needed on that. But the bushings in these frames just took it, and I mean hard. You can see on the right side, heavy wear. This is toward the outside of the frame. And, you know, again, I think it's from that uneven loading with this thing being operated on an angle so much. This little ring right here that you can see, that's actually where, well, the pivot shaft wore into the bushing so far that the shim pack that sets the track frame alignment to the sprocket actually started riding out here outside of this this raised ring you got right there. So that's all wear that's cut into that bushing. And you can even see, like around here, you have these grease distribution grooves cut in the bushing. Over here, the bushing wore so much that that groove just disappears. And that's, well, I guess it's better to wear the bushing because that's the replaceable bearing part than it is to wear that shaft. And it's a lot easier to replace these bushings than a shaft. Same for the left side here. Let me get this propped up. There we go. This outer bushing, well, it's not worn bad enough that we lost the grease grooves. But when you look at, we're not going to get in to measure anything, but you can see it's nice and thick up here, and it skinnies up. It gets a lot thinner right here. It's basically egg-shaped right now. Heavy bias toward the inside on the left. Again, same with the rollers. And both track frames set flat now. To talk about running clearance, I got a couple straight edges set out there to illustrate what I'm trying to describe. So book spec for running clearance between those track frame bushings and the pivot shaft is only 15 thousandths of an inch. I've got probably 10 thousandths or so wear on the pivot shaft where the bushings ride, and I'm not ever going to find a better shaft than that, so we're not worrying about that. Judging by the wear that was in the bushings, though, on this right side, we are running 105 thousandths clearance bushing to pivot shaft right now. Left side, we're only about 70. Okay, only, right? So 105 thousandths doesn't seem like a lot when you consider, well, we got a lot of room between track pads and the side of the engine, right? Well, not so much. You know, I want to run those big 20-inch wide super swampers on this because they just look way cool. And, well, on a 5J or 5U series wide gauge D2 with a standard 16-inch wide pad, you've got about 4 inches running clearance between the side of your engine where the side panels will be and the inner edge of that track pad. You take that out to the 20-inch pads, we're down to 2 inches is all we have. Now, to illustrate how much this wear on the bushing will be amplified by the time we get to the end of the frame, we actuate this T-square at about 105 thousandths clearance at the bushing. It's amplified into about 7/8 of an inch end float by the time you get all the way out to the end of this frame. So now that comfortable 2 inches of clearance we thought we had, you might as well take it down to an inch. All right, I'm rounding 7/8 up to an inch. So yeah, that might still be enough to be okay, but then you factor in, you have this rim that goes around the center of the idler, and the track chains do not fit tightly up against each side of this. They can float side to side on here, I would say 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. So you get into a turn and your track chain and pads and everything tension inward. Well, you're now down to maybe ½ inch clearance between the side panels and the inside of those Super Swamper track pads. Throw in any additional flex or torsion movement at all in the system, and well, you're going to be into the side of your engine with those super wide tracks. So I had to tighten up those bushings. Trouble is, I'm putting myself in the same old box of impossibility where I'm never going to do anything the easy way. And well, all right, yep, we need to replace the bushings. So at first glance, you'd think, well, easy enough to get these out, find a disc that fits the bushing, throw this up on its side in a press, and push them both out the other end. No, those scoundrels at Caterpillar made sure we don't have life that easy. So if you took a saw and cut this tube right in half, and we're looking at a cross section of it, here's what it would be. You can see here, frame tube and the darkened in cross sections of both the bushings. Now, when they machined the inside diameter of this tube, they didn't go all the way through with it. They came in from one side and then stopped. And then they came in from the other side and then stopped. So we have a raised portion in the middle that prevents these bushings from both going out one direction or the other. So you have to get in behind them and pull them each out or drive them out. And typically what most people do, and what I've always done, is to take like an end mill bit on a Dremel. Here's one that I removed from an old track frame to, well, get some specs for building all that crap over there. But also to kind of show, you want to go and like cut a slit all the way down the full length of the bushing. Be careful you don't go so deep as to get into the frame tube itself. And once you've got a pretty good slit cut, take a chisel and start driving it in from one end. You'll likely knock pieces out like that. But what you'll do is actually crack it along that slit, collapse that in, and then it can be easily driven out. The problem is it takes a long time. It's very dirty. You can see all the chips and shavings and everything. They get blasted around. It wears end mill bits like crazy on a Dremel. So yeah, I made all that. I'd like to be able to use hydraulic power to pull both of those bushings out without having to cut them or do anything like that. So we start with these disc pieces right here. You can see each one of these has kind of, you know, a cut-in shoulder on the backside. That will allow me to insert these from one end, and they'll come through the tube and then basically hook the backside of the bushing like that. And each one of these is going to be centered on this disc right here that has those two wedges on it. So yeah, that's going to, let's see if we can pick it all up here. Well, that's going to keep both of those engaged with the backside of the bushing. Hopefully, in theory, we have not actually put this to use yet. And we have this plate here with the 3/4 by 16 nut spotted to it. That's going to thread onto this 3/4 by 16 grade 8 threaded rod that just showed up the other day. So that plate and this nut is going to sandwich all that together. You can see it's got like two wings on the back that should hopefully provide enough gripping force on the back side of that bushing so that when we throw this tube, oh, we could go to this side with it, or we could go to that side with it. We can throw that tube on there. Hollow ram's going to be on top of that, and the end of this rod is going to be up through the end of this hollow ram with a nut right there. As that piston comes out, it should pull one bushing at a time all the way out up into this tube and disengage it from the track frame. So that's the theory anyway. Let's put it to practice and see if it actually works. So we're all gripped up behind the bushing. Sleeve goes on. Here we are. Then our plate provides a solid base for the ram. Secure it with the nut up top, and now let's see if the reality in my brain matches the reality in the shop. Got about 4 tons pressure on it. There, it popped at 5 tons. Sounds like it's pulling. We're only pulling about 2 tons now. Okay, we're going to release tension because the stroke on this cylinder is only about 2 inches. Now we just take up the slack with the nut, pull again. We're not even pulling a ton on it now. Cinch it one last time. We have to be so close to being out of the bore. Yep, I think we're out now. Let's see. Look at that. There's our bushing. It actually works. Okay, set up to pull bushing number 2 on the other side of that frame. We'll just see how this one goes. That one released at about 2 tons. That wasn't too bad. Seems to be pulling a lot easier over here. There, loosened up. Look at that, success again. A little bit better view of how those wings grab onto the bottom edge of the bushing. The only thing I did differently this time is I put this other really heavy spacer in here because after I pulled the first one, this washer wanted to deform a little bit. So I put all that stuff in the press, flattened it back out again, backed it up with that thick one, and it looks like everything stayed nice and flat here. And now that we have both bushings out, you can see that raised rough bore in the center. That's why you can't just take these and shoot them all right out one direction. So far, this is working great. Pulling number 3. Three tons. About 4. Let go. Yep. That'll do it. Okay, everybody, so it's the next day, and yeah, the rain has stopped, the sun is out, and I really need to not be in the shop right now. So as soon as I got off work today, I blasted home and I finished the reconditioning on these track frames, at least as far as I can go for now. I'll try and run you through everything I did off camera. It was off camera, sorry, but you know, making hay, sun shining, those kinds of things. So yeah, I got these bushing bores degreased, all cleaned out, the grease passage as well. And well, like I said, we'd chased all the holes. I went down underneath and de-rusted all of the mounting surfaces for the track rollers. You can see I got Lefty propped up on the side here because I want to show you. I don't know if you remember from taking the rollers off, but this is the one that lost the bearing or the cap or the shell or whatever, and had actually worn into that frame channel in 2 spots at one point in time. So I cleaned all that up, squirted a little bit of metal on there from the welder, and flushed it all back out. So we're good right there. We took care of any high spots that had pulled around those threaded holes. So yeah, both the track frames are, like I said, as far as I can get them right now. Pivot shaft right here, cleaned up good. Let's set this back down. There we are. So that's as far as we can go on those for now. This bushing pulling tool ended up being quite handy. So yeah, that's gonna earn a spot in the Cat Special Service Tools box. It took me a little bit of, you know, screwing around to make that, some time invested, but I pulled all 4 of these bushings in about the same amount of time it would have taken me to cut and slit and collapse and drive out one. Plus, it's such a cleaner job, and we don't have to worry about scarring these bores in here with any kind of an end mill or cutoff. So that's good. We've got oil seals ready for those bushing tubes. And here's all 4 of our used bushings right here. Now, these are, well, the last time I priced them from Cat, let's just say you better be sitting down and clutching your chest before they read you off the numbers. They were horrendously expensive. I can get 4 pieces of round bushing stock for less than 1 finished bushing from Cat, so that's the route I decided to go. Those bushings are, we're not going to get into it too deep right now, that's going to be for next time, but they're like a 3 3/8 outside diameter. They're 4 inches long, and I think it's like a 2.950 on the inside. I was able to get 2 7/8, that's 0.875 on the ID, so I just need to put them in the lathe, dress that inside out a little bit, cut those grease channels, and boom, we've got 4 bushings that are going to be ready to go. Problem is, I ordered those a week ago, and I just got a back order notice on them from Grainger today with no estimated date for delivery. So that's another setback. That's okay though, we have buku amounts of track rollers we can start going through in the meantime. And like I said, sun is shining. I need to be outside and covering ground right now. That's why we're kind of going through this a little bit fast. So track frames are, like I said, as far along as I can get them until I can get some bushings. And thanks for watching, everybody. I need to wrap this up. If you're interested in memberships, link below. You can see all these episodes a day early, ad-free. You can forego all that stuff for about $5 a month and get extra content, bonus features, this, that, and whatever. And just, I'm messing it up, guys. I'm in a hurry. I got to go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the likes, subs, the views, the watch minutes, all that stuff. Hope to see you back again.